Hey everyone, this is Dr. Shaughanassee, Coceaux Health. I hope that everyone is doing pretty well on today. It's our Women's Health Wednesday, as you like to think of it. But again, hope that you're staying safe, hope that you're doing well in the midst of this COVID-19. Give it a couple more seconds to let people go ahead and hop on. I'm so excited for our guest that's going to be joining us on this afternoon. Us about how we preserve our mental health just in the crazy and stressful times we're living in. If you didn't know, July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. We know that our mental health is today, but I wanted to take this special opportunity in this time just to be able to promote how important it is to care about your mental health as it is for your physical health. So a little bit about Coceaux Health, that this is a safe and it's an affordable virtual clinic for African-American women. We have heard about all the disparities that really plague our community of color, down to access to care, down to insurance, down to implicit bias from healthcare providers, so many things that we've heard of recently. And so Coceaux Women wants to be able to serve that population and to bring that gap close together, to close that gap for African-American women. So that way there's access to care, that way there is a safe place that you can feel that your needs are heard. We really pride ourselves on pairing African-American women with African-American clinicians. And so again, there's that representation piece there. Currently, we're servicing women in Virginia and Maryland, and we offer all types of women's health services. Go to our website, www.Coceaux Health, to check us out. But I don't want to take all our time talking about Coceaux Health. I definitely want to talk about our guest on today. So I'm so very excited to have another healthcare provider, my good friend. We've spoken on quite a few panels together, and I'm just always learning something from the knowledge that she shares when we meet. And so I'm so glad that we could finally connect and have this conversation on today. I have with me Dr. JaNaè Taylor of Minding My Black Business. So let's go ahead and add her on to the stream. Dr. Taylor, welcome, welcome. How are you today?
Oh my goodness, it's such a pleasure to be here. I am doing well. Thank you for having me here. And this is a good way to close out the workday today.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel the same way. Look, I have to ask, how are you doing? How are you keeping it together during these times? Before I give your bio and everything, I just got to do a quick check-in because we got to make sure that we're okay too.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you asking me that. And I was telling you before that I was like, ooh, I got to make sure I stay hydrated. So I went and grabbed my ice water prior to this event. So I'm doing well. Just the short answer. And part of it is, we have all been making these adjustments in our work life and our daily life. And I am, not exempt from that. So things are going really well. And I've had to be very creative. And we'll talk about some of that and moving forward.
Right.
But yeah,
No,
it's been the level of flexibility that we all have to have. And even when you thought you were being flexible, having to be even more flexible. Yeah, things are going really well.
Good. Yeah. I'm so glad to hear that. I could definitely relate to so many things that you're saying. So if you are tuning into us live, please, we welcome all types of questions. We're here to answer your questions. We have some things that we want to touch on that we feel that are pertinent to you. But of course, if you have a question, please comment below and we'll make sure to take those. Like, love, share this live because you need this. Your girlfriends need this. Your mamas, your sisters, your cousins. We all need this to figure out how we can cope and stay sane, how we can manage stress, especially as Black women. There's a disproportionate amount of stress, and we know that just affects our mind and also our body. So let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Taylor. She's a licensed psychotherapist in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where she owns and operates Taylor Counseling and Consulting Services. JaNaè works with Black men and women who are struggling with harmful self-evaluations. Therapy with JaNaè helps them create a more empowered and a focused sense of self that is more aligned with their beliefs and values. JaNaè also provides consultations to Black entrepreneurs in every stage of the game who are working to balance their mental health, their Black identity, and successful businesses. Consultations with JaNaè result in clearer expectations and a greater understanding of how to manage yourself while executing your business identity. JaNaè has provided consultations throughout the entire community with agencies such as MTV's Teen Mom, I remember that, Young and Pregnant, Hampton Roads Black Chamber of Commerce, Hampton Roads Voice Radio Show, Black Wall Street Today, Shades of Life Coaching Services, and so many more. As the host of the Minding My Black Business podcast, JaNaè continues to make a value impact on educating Black entrepreneurs on their emotional wellness. Since the start of the podcast in 2007, the show currently has over 68,000 downloads in 85 countries. Wow. So everybody, please meet Dr. JaNaè Taylor. Again, if you have questions during the live, feel free to put those at the bottom, and we are so happy to answer those for you. So let's just dig right into it, Dr. Taylor. I want to know some tips that you have, because I know I need them. People are stressed out. You know, we were just talking about, especially as women, how are we going to be flexible if your job has transitioned to a different setting? If you may have lost your job and you've had to file for unemployment, or you've had to transition to a different job. What are the kids going to do, you know, with this virtual learning classroom? Is there going to be a hybrid? All these different topics in the air. Right. Some people have to work with their loved ones. We love them, but we don't love being together 24/7. And definitely for entrepreneurs, it's been a really hard hit for our business owners. So self-care, if it was never important, it is definitely important today. So I want to start by asking, what type of self-care practices would you actually recommend for just coping with stress in general?
Yeah, I think all those things are so well said. So I think part of it is recognizing that you will be stressed. This is a stressful time. And prior to March, we were all walking around with some level of worry, stress, or fear. And so certainly since March, those things have multiplied in the ways in which stressors are hitting us on all sort of fronts. And you know, we think about coronavirus, it's certainly a pandemic, and now we also have these instances of police brutality and injustice that we're also managing too. So I kind of like to think of it as we're managing two pandemics simultaneously as it relates to our own health and well-being. And so the first thing is to acknowledge that there will be moments throughout your day, there'll be weeks in which you're feeling stressed, and that is kind of the nature of what it means to go through two pandemics. So the other part, the reason why I say you need to acknowledge that that's happening is because when you feel that way, you won't sort of guilt yourself around not being as productive, not being as social. Like there are going to be moments when you just don't have it in you. You absolutely don't have it in you. So recognizing from moment to moment, from day to day, from week to week, is this a good week in terms of like, do I feel like I have the energy to tackle those, to do things, or, you know, be even adventurous or more creative with my family or solo? Or is this one where I need to be more restorative and do some things solo or in small groups or just with my family? Maybe I don't leave the house today, but maybe I'll go out tomorrow. So give yourself some grace is the ultimate self-care practice, I believe, is to really evaluate where you are right now and do activities that are in line with that. It's really hard to be extra social when you really don't have the energy. So that would be the first self-care practice, is to give yourself some grace, evaluate the energy that you have, and then proceed accordingly with that.
Right. I so love that you were saying to of grace. I have to constantly remind myself of that every single day, just because, you know, seeing patients virtually, talking to people, often taking care of others. You're in this busy mode. You know, you're so accustomed to work, grind, hustle. And then now everything is just way different. And so now that your life looks a little different, it's hard to just be easy on yourself. I will admit that's probably one of my biggest struggles, but I think it's so freeing, just like you said, to acknowledge that, you know what, everybody's stressed. I'm not the only one. And it's okay to be stressed out right now. I'm not less productive. I'm not weird. None of that.
Right. You are so right. You're right. Nobody has walked through these months not being stressed. Life as we know it has completely changed. And I like to say the world is upside down right now. And so the idea that you would not be stressed is silly. So we all are feeling stressed, even if it means I have to kind of figure out a way to do my typical routine in a very different fashion. That's stressful. Even if they're good stresses. So there are people who are making things are getting able to or being able to accomplish things that were on their list. And so even those things are stressful. So we are not immune from it. It'll knock up on your door whether you're ready or not. So just evaluate the level of energy you have to address that stress and take care of yourself in those ways. So some simple basic things too are making sure that you are one, staying hydrated, making sure you're getting your rest. So we're looking at about 6 to 8 hours a night. Some of us don't have a commute anymore, so that's helpful too. So you can kind of, for me, it's been really easy to have a different start of the day routine. So I've been able to like brew tea and set a candle before I start work. Like that's not stuff that I was able to do when I had to figure out how to get to the office and get back. So having some rituals as to how to begin and end your day is going to be really helpful. So making sure you get the rest, making sure you're having some sort of nutrition throughout the day, a breakfast, lunch, and a dinner, because oftentimes that can be easy for particularly business owners to just kind of power through. I skip breakfast. I'm not really hungry. Like you need to continue to make sure that you have some nourishment for yourself. Trying also not to stay isolated. I know that's really tough when we have to be physically distanced. And so even, things like this, and they're all kind of video ways in which you can stay connected with your loved ones. So community is also going to be really important for you during these times.
Right. I actually read a study recently that was talking about the effects of loneliness on people. And it would say that loneliness can actually be like the equivalent, I think, of smoking 15 cigarettes. Like it's that, intense on your body. So even though we can't be together physically, like we're not really supposed to be having the backyard cookouts and
we're not supposed to.
Right. We can't have the wedding receptions and all these large gatherings that we're just so accustomed to having this time of year. FaceTimes, they really save me. Zooms, they really help me out. Talking to friends, just sending a quick text, hey, just checking on you, how you doing? Things to know that we're still on each other's mind. They've really been a lot of saving grace for me.
Absolutely. The same. Yeah, I have a few friends, but we have a standing appointment. So every 2 weeks, we know that and literally as we end the conversation, like, okay, open your calendar. I'm opening my calendar. Is this still good? And we kind of book appointments with each other. And I've been to several Zoom birthday parties. And so those things, although they're quite different, have been really fun to participate.
I love those ideas. I had someone tell me that their friends, they meet up in the restaurant parking lot, like they'll all order takeout. And then they'll meet up in the car. So I've been saying I'm going to do that with my girlfriend. So for all my friends out there listening, we're going to do that. So I want to ask you another question. A lot of women, some women are still working, of course. And I think we as working women can relate too. How do we not really bring that stress home? Especially if you are someone that's kind of deemed essential worker, or there's a reason that you have to be outside the house, or even, if you are doing lots of online work, people are saying that working online is sometimes a little bit harder than going to the office because we don't have those boundaries for ourselves. So how can our audience really prevent their work stress from coming home and affecting their families? And now they got family stress because of work stress.
Right. You're right. Those two can kind of feed off of each other because sometimes family stress can impact your workday. So I think that's a great point to pay attention to. I think there are going to be some moments that are unavoidable in which you just kind of woke up on the wrong side of the bed and you have to adjust throughout the workday and vice versa. But ideally, I think it's helpful to do some of those strategies that I mentioned before, like having some level of routine around your day is really helpful, and particularly rituals just for you. So yes, there are things that you need to manage with your partner or even with your children, but for you as a woman, it's going to be really important that you have your own special strategy. And so there's some of us who have that energy, who are, morning folks, and we have more energy at the beginning of the day. And so maybe that means you have some level of meditation or prayer, or maybe you're journaling with something that you can use at the beginning of the day to kind of start you off with good intention and purpose. And for those of us who may be more of a night owl like myself, so having an evening ritual, it could be really helpful to kind of close out of your day. And so some of those same things could be helpful: meditation and journaling. Some of the things that I use, smell is really important to me. So I have a candle when I am seeing clients in telehealth, but at night, as part of my ritual, I use my essential oil diffuser in my room. And so I have, I use my eucalyptus, and that's really helpful. Some people will get eucalyptus for their shower. So they have like a shower regimen or bath regimen that kind of helps wind down their day. But having some way to be very purposeful about paying attention to where you are and how you're feeling and what you need. Because it could be, I'm feeling a little tired today. I'm feeling really worried about something. When you know what you need, then you can pull other people in to get those needs met. And so even if you do it at the end of the day, you could say, wow, this day was really stressful. So what can I do tomorrow to kind of buffer that? So having some level of ritual, being purposeful, being mindful, paying attention to how you feel is going to be really important for us.
I think we got to be connected, because I have like this new candle thing going on. And so when I feel my energy getting up, I have that eucalyptus and mint candle, and I will light that thing and let it diffuse through the house. And at nighttime, I have my essential oil diffuser too.
See, we know.
So there's some, that's right. I know for myself, my husband and I, like, we've tried to set up boundaries, and I know they're like loose boundaries because some days are busier than others, but I kind of just have a loose boundary of, this is like the time of the day where we're going to stop, for me seeing patients, for him coming home from work. Yeah. And then we may like talk about, our day in this very beginnings part, but then after a certain time, like, we've kind of just agreed we're not going to just talk about those things. After a certain point at night, this is kind of like our reserved family time just for us. So, we got like an hour to talk about school, to talk about patients, to talk about, or not patients, but just how my day was, period, with patients, right. To talk about teaching and all these other things. And then after like, a certain time, we kind of shut those conversations down. And now it's about, what do you want to do? What do you want to eat? Let's go outside and eat on the patio. Just little things to mentally disconnect. So that way, whatever was stressing us earlier, we've kind of set a little boundary of, this is not where you cross. This is the point where you kind of stay there, and we'll just deal with that tomorrow. Especially with telehealth and work on the computer. I found like my days blend very easily. You just kind of find, if you're up at 9 o'clock at night, creeping, checking emails, or can't sleep, let me post this. And it's like, no, this is family time. So I try to be really religious on that. Hopefully other people, and if you have some tips as you're listening in, please write those in the chat box, because we need them. Other women need them. If you have questions, please post your questions in the comment in the chat box. We are so happy to answer those. That is exactly why we're here, so we can help our sisters out. So you may have noticed this too, Dr. Taylor, where when this all started, people were all over social media and they're saying, this is the time that you need to create so many new businesses. This is the time that you need to do all this. I'm going to clean out all my closets in my house. I'm going to sell everything and put on OfferUp or Marketplace or Goodwill, something, or I'm going to do this with my kids. And we set all these lofty goals for ourselves. And then we kind of got in the thick of it, and we realized, oh, this might not be over when we thought it would be. This is a real pandemic. And so we didn't do all those things, and I just really want to speak to those people who maybe really kind of like beating themselves up about, I didn't start that business, or I didn't do this, or I said I was going to do that and I didn't. And they're kind of feeling like they're wasting time. What kind of advice would you give to those people that maybe kind of beating themselves up a little bit about goals that they felt like they didn't accomplish?
Ooh, oh my goodness. I feel like you just said a whole word there. Like, yes.
Well, I thought we have felt like that. I know I have. I've had to like say, bump being Dr. Vines, founder of Coceaux Health, Shaughanassee.
Right.
Give yourself grace.
Yes. No, I think if there isn't another takeaway that people take, I think grace and flexibility are things that you need to like bathe yourself in. Just bathe yourself in those things. So yes, I think I also fell victim to that. There's still a closet that I keep walking by, and I'm like, I'm gonna get those clothes together so I can, donate them, and I just keep walking by. So
I keep closing the door to that room. I just close the door and pretend like the room is clean.
That's a good strategy, though. That's a good strategy. So I think we all are kind of walking around with some shoulda, coulda, wouldas in this thing. The reality of it is, so we have goals, and it's not necessarily that you have to abandon those goals. Let's look at maybe even adapting those. And so the idea that we now have all this free time because we're not leaving the home does not necessarily that our time means that our time is free. Like your time is available, but it's not just sitting there. There are things that you're doing. So even if it means that you're strategizing or writing things down or even mulling them over, that means that you're doing work. It doesn't mean that you have to physically be in another locale to define it as work. So you could actually be doing lots of work, but not even realizing it because you don't see like a physical product. So that's the first part. It's like, give yourself some credit. And it helps nobody if you kind of beat yourself over and blame yourself and make yourself feel guilty about something that you're not able to do or haven't been able to do. So look at a way of revamping it, given the time that you have, given the resources that you have, the financial, strain that it might create. Realistically, what are some things that I might be able to do? And make those goals feel a little smaller and maybe not so far out. And so, like you were saying, we didn't know. Who would have guessed that at the end of July, practically August, we would still be trying to manage. Am I going to school in September? Am I going back to work, or do I go in the office? Nobody knew. Nobody knew that this was going to happen in this way. So maybe if you think about, August is changing. Well, August will be here on Saturday, and so maybe if you think about for the month of August, what are some things that would be reasonable to accomplish, or maybe even for the next week between now and next Wednesday, maybe I can pull 2 things out of my closet and put them in the donation pile. So make those goals really small and manageable, and don't beat yourself up over things that you weren't able to accomplish. Just create a variation of that original goal. I think that's the best way that you can kind of manage through this thing.
Yeah. I so love those advice, especially about giving yourself the credit for the things that you do that you may not realize that you've actually done. So it's kind of like that old age saying where, focus on what you have accomplished more than what you haven't accomplished. I know just for me being in transparency, when all this happened, I remember going to the gym one day and then the very next day, the gym was closed. Like they said that night, the county went ahead and issued the order, it shut down. And so my whole workout regimen kind of fell, and then you couldn't really buy all the food. So anyway, all that to say, I got the same, quarantine pounds like everyone else has happened. So I've really been focusing on how can I get back walking, exercising, running my bike, all that. Some weeks are better than others. Some days I do a week and I'm like, oh, it's a heat wave. I'm not going outside. Some weeks I'm on it very consistently. And I found myself kind of beat myself up a little bit like, come on, you got to do a little bit better than this. But I had to stop and just tell myself, you know what? I did something new this week that I hadn't done before. At least I got up and did this. Or today I was able to clean the house. I was able to talk to some patients and really connect with them. I was able to take care of my family. And that's a good work. Just counting those things that you do. I was able to plan out my social media strategy. And like you said, that takes time and a whole lot of mental energy too. Absolutely. And so just counting the things that you have been able to do, I find sometimes it helps instead of always immediately focusing on the things that you can't do too. So hopefully that helps somebody that's out there. Again, just want to welcome, everyone that's listening in, and Thank you to all of our viewers for being here. Send us some likes and some loves and share. Let us know that you are here and that you are enjoying this. Again, if you have questions, if you have tips or comments, we love those. Please, 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 please put those in the chat box for us so that we can answer those things and we can share those things for our audience too. So one thing that I really do post a lot and talk a lot about is Superwoman syndrome. Oh. And I think you heard me talk about it too at conferences, and we kind of both tag team off each other. Absolutely. And it's a thing. Like there's real life research and evidence behind it, and it really plagues in Black women. And it has its roots, in slavery and other things. But really, it's just that focus on, we think we have to be strong all the time. We think we have to have it together. We cannot ask for help because that's a sign of weakness in our eyes, not from the world's perspective, but from our eyes. We have to be the ones to fix it. All of those things that go on and on, we feel like we have to, I guess, appear like we're achieving things, even though sometimes we know that we really may not. So I think it's going to be big for a lot of people. Can you speak to how can women just ask for help? I know it sounds easy, but it's hard for a lot of people.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Because really, I think some of us who get caught up in that, we have to kind of evaluate our own ego. Like what sort of values have we attached to what it means to ask for help? Is it a sign of weakness? Is it a sign of defeat?
Evaluate my own ego.
Yeah. And so, like, have I failed in some way because now that I'm asking for help? And so if we really think about, for us as Black women, if we think about one of the things that's so important to our community, one of our values is community, is unity, is being in concert with each other. So we can go further and faster when we're together. And so let us help you. Let us help you, right? And so I like to tell people, particularly in relationships, and when I say relationships, I mean the big R, so all of them. Relationships with your siblings and parents and spouses and friends and children. There is written in those contracts, in those relationship contracts, and not necessarily in fine print, it's kind of in bold, that we will kind of hold each other accountable, that we want the best for each other, and that we'll support each other. And so when you do these projects in solo, when you take on these tasks and you need support and you don't ask for help, then you're kind of violating these contracts of these people who are around you, who can support you, who can make this easier, who can hold you accountable, who might be even able to even take this off your shoulders. There is such power in delegation. There is such relief in delegation. And so being able to ask for help, it can feel really, really tough. So I say that not to make it at all sound easy or even to guilt anybody, but it absolutely needs to happen. Everybody needs to learn how to ask for help. So how do you like literally do that? How do I literally ask for help? And so it could start very small in terms of going to someone who is a trusted confidant. This could be anybody, a spouse, a parent, a friend. And just saying, hey, do you have a few minutes so I can talk to you about whatever that XYZ is? It could even be in reference to something they may have said to you, because usually people around us can tell when we're struggling, and they kind of just wait for us to say something so they could be like, you know what, I'm glad that you mentioned that. In fact, that happened to me in a moment of transparency. A couple of weeks ago, I took a whole week off from work. Now, I took a week off, meaning I didn't see clients, but I clearly was working that week. But my day was structured very differently, and I did get a chance to do lots of fun things. But part of also what I did that day was I checked in with my family every day. And they said to me towards the end of that week, I'm so glad you took this week off. You are so lighter. You're smiling more. Your smile is bigger. You're so relaxed. And I'm thinking to myself, I thought I was okay before, but golly, got it know. Sharing all these things. So my point is that people around you usually can tell when you need help, and they're just waiting on you to extend your hand so that they can help you. So it can be really, really simple as referring back to a thing, or just saying, hey, would you join me for this thing? But yeah, or you all can create a code word. You can have a conversation about help, and say, I'm using my help word. But yeah, I think it's really important that we have people around us that we feel safe. It feels safe to be vulnerable to ask for help, because that's the other scary part of it too. To say that I have taken on a task that I can no longer do by myself kind of feels really scary. But we all feel that. We all feel that. That's a universal experience. And so you should be able to have people around you that won't shame you, that'll aid you when it comes to needing help with getting something done.
I love that. I mean, I absolutely love that. I tell myself often, and I took this deep sigh because I go through this often. I feel like this
Yeah.
whole live is speaking to me too. But I tell myself that I'm not helping myself when I don't ask for help. I'm really kind of hurting myself in the long run too, because when you think about all the gifts and the talents that people have, that your tribe has, and you surround yourself with those type of people on purpose. So why am I not tapping into those things? Like if I have a really good friend that I've known for years, and she's just really good at encouraging, and so I love her because of her spirit and just the things we've been through. And I know that she could encourage me through things.
Right.
And so when I am having these down moments, I'm not doing myself any service. I'm doing myself a disservice when I don't tap into friends who, know what I need. Likewise, when my girlfriends don't come to me and they're having moments, the first question I ask is, why did you say anything?
Right.
Why did you tell me? How come I just got on my friend this about this the other day. So how come you went through all this by yourself and you never said anything to me? And I was here. We talked every single day, but we didn't talk about the things that bothered you the most. Like you said, that kind of violates the girlfriend contract. And we never really thought about it like that. So ladies, we just have to definitely ask for help. We have some comments in the chat box that says asking for help can be scary. So that is very true. It is very, very true. And like Dr. JaNaè said, it's really kind of being vulnerable. But I think part of it too is trusting that circle to be vulnerable with, to know that it's okay to ask for help with the laundry or help picking up the kids or help with a project or, help any kind of way that you look at it. So it can be scary. It really, really can. I think it's so necessary.
It 100% is. And that person is right. It is very scary. And also because sometimes here's the other like asterisk to asking for help is don't feel like you have to have the solution ready for somebody in moving forward. Because sometimes we're like, okay, so I know I need help with, and I need you to do it ABC way. Because sometimes you might not know exactly what needs to be fixed, but you know that I just need some support in some way. So maybe part of the help is even talking through what the problem is, so that together that you all can create something that feels like a reasonable solution. So you don't have to package your help in a pretty package. It can be ugly and messy, and that's okay.
I love it. I love it. We have another question in the chat too. It says, what are your suggestions for dealing with stress? And this is from Chantel Blackwell. And so I mean, being quarantined with the children all summer and now into the fall. How do we deal with this?
Yeah, I think all parents should get some like badge of honor at the end of this, because you all are doing the work and taking on more than anybody even anticipated. So what are your suggestions? What are my suggestions for dealing with stress? So part of it is having a routine. So having an official start to your day, having an official end to your day, because sometimes that can be really tricky. I know we talked before about even like working from home, those days can blend together. One of the things that's been really helpful for me is to have some boundaries around work. So there are days in which I don't see clients. I take an official lunch break. I do not sit at my computer and have lunch. I walk away from that. And in fact, I go, and even though I'm working from home, I go to a different part of my house to do different activities, which is why I'm sitting on my couch right now. I said, I'm not going to work in my telework spot to do this. Like, I'm going to transition so that I can be in a different spirit when I sit here and do this. So making sure that you have some cordon off time throughout your day to do different things. So Your children need your time, but they also need time away from you. And the same. You need time with them and also time away from them. And so some of the things I'm hearing my parents say is they make so much use of that bath and shower time. I mean, there are candles being lit, there's music being played, there is all sorts of things to really sort of enjoy that experience, because kids know, like, if mommy has the door closed, barring an emergency, they kind of leave you alone. I mean, they might give you 8 minutes, but you can make that the best 8 minutes of your day. So make sure you have some time that you can look forward to, that you can relieve stress. And so also that applies to your work day as well. Have some things to look forward to, making sure you're taking those mini breaks, even if it's just 15 minutes to step outside, go look at the window, or even text somebody, send a funny meme. But it doesn't have to be huge things. It can be very small changes to just kind of reset different parts of your day.
I think those suggestions are awesome. And for all of our friends who are in education, who are teachers,
Yes.
Y'all are the MVPs. I mean, I love my healthcare friends because we are doing it. But these teachers, honey, y'all, your job is just so phenomenal, and it's invaluable and irreplaceable. So I honor you. I salute you. I think a lot of parents feel that way too. But I love what you said about breaks. Even just optimizing that shower time. Like if I go in this room, everyone knows, let me be, just till I come out the room. Y'all go do things, let me be in the room, even if it's for 10 minutes. So we have another question that says, what can you do if you have anxiety due to fear of failure? So you're not motivated to do anything at this point.
Yeah, that's so real. So I like to think of anxiety as, it can sort of be a combination of things. It can be connected to stress, it can be connected to worry, and it also can be connected to fear. And sometimes it can be a combination of all those things. So if you can make sense of what is the thing that is fueling your anxiety. And so for you, you talked about failure. And so I would really examine, well, what is it? Has anything really failed, or did my plans just not go as expected? Maybe there's another way I can alter my goal or alter the path I was on that still feels like success. Because that has certainly happened for me, that I had an idea of how this was supposed to pan out. It did not pan out that way, but I still feel like I won. So I made a new connection, or I was able to reach people that I wasn't even thinking about in that moment. So while it didn't pan out the way I intended, I was able to get some success in a very different way. So I would change the wording, because for me, words are so powerful. So what is it that didn't go the way I intended, but maybe there was a win for me in that? And so really reevaluating that, I think, might be helpful for you.
Right. Great comments. And again, continue to ask your questions.
Yeah, these are fantastic questions.
They are. So being that you specialize with entrepreneurs, I got to ask this question.
Please.
What healthcare practices can Black female business owners take, especially during this time when we don't know when we can open? It's so many restrictions, and we get the public health ordinances. I'm a former public health nurse, so I get it. But I also get being a business owner. We don't know if people have gotten their funds. It is just so hard to stay afloat nowadays. What can they do? Because this is a special population of people too.
Right. Oh my goodness. Black entrepreneurs have a special place in my heart. So first things first is that if you do not have some Black entrepreneur friends, get you some.
Get them.
And so maybe they start off as acquaintances and get promoted to friends. It doesn't even matter how that happens, but get you some. And so you need to be in community with other Black entrepreneurs. Why in the world is that important? Well, first of all, it can be very isolating to build your business. There are so many things that for a lot of us, we want to kind of keep private as we mold and build our baby, our website and our social media. Like there's just so many stressors connected to that, and other entrepreneurs, other Black entrepreneurs in particular, can relate to some of those stressors. So it's important to be in community with other Black entrepreneurs. Now I said community, that means like y'all in some kind of connection, or just checking in. That doesn't necessarily mean that you now take this on as a project. I'm not saying you collaborate and build a business. That's not what I'm saying, because entrepreneurs are good for that too. Like, well, if I'm gonna spend this time talking to you, then it needs to be a project on the other end of that. Nope, that's not what I'm saying. But just make sure you have some Black entrepreneur friends. Get you some. Right? That's the first part. The second part is to have truly a work day and work week. It is so easy for us to work 7 days a week. And I am so guilty of that. And I probably am still doing that to this day, but not nearly as bad as I used to. And so now on the weekends, my work looks a little fluid. So it might be me scheduling social media posts, responding to emails for a couple hours, and then I'm done. And then I'm done with it. Whereas through my Monday and Friday, I have days for meetings, days in which I see clients, days in which I take care of my own podcasting stuff. So I have my schedule really, really protected. The other part to this is take some time away from your business, please. Please.
Yes.
Please take some time away. And what I mean by that, I don't mean the time in which you're sleeping. That's not what I mean. I mean, you need to take a mental health day. You also need to have your own summer vacation in whatever way that looks like, in whatever way is feasible. But you need to be able to take a couple of days away in a very consistent fashion. So whether that's every other month or once a month or whatever it looks like, but take some time away from your business, because you need to make sure that you as an individual are getting what you need, and that not your every waking moment is connected to building your business. You as an individual need to be happy and healthy so that your business can be happy and healthy. And then probably my last recommendation, and you all probably can guess that I'm going to say this, is you need to be connected with some level of therapy. So now, why do I say some level of therapy? Well, some people can participate in like the traditional therapy practice. And so for a lot of us, that means like telehealth. And for some of us, we can do some like group format. So there are some people who have like emotional wellness consultants and coaches or group programs where you all kind of work through some things together. Some of us do like some self-help stuff. So there are like books and programs and podcasts and websites that are giving us emotional health resources. So all of that is quite therapeutic. So some level of that you should have some connection to. But those are the things that I would recommend for my fellow Black female business owners.
Man, oh man, I can attest to so many of those things. I mean, just again, in all transparency, when I started the actual physical location of the medical practice that I owned, I felt like I dealt with anxiety on a whole nother level. And it wasn't like, this is something that I did every day, it was new for me. And it was because of the level of stress that I was taking on now. And it felt so isolating. It wasn't until I really connected with other business owners, a good friend of mine, and I knew her for a long time, but we just hadn't really been able to connect on that level. But when we did, I love her so much. She said, "Queen, I had the same issues, and we just to know someone else got bill issues, or just to know someone else has issues with being drained from seeing people all day, or someone else has issues trying to get off on time and not being there on the weekends and trying to manage family." That in itself, it was so free to me. So I can't even imagine what my life would be like now, not staying connected in these times with other people who are entrepreneurs, for me, who are healthcare people. So we do the same thing, finding those similar circles, that community we talked about. And then to entrepreneurs, there are certain conversations that I could have with my entrepreneur friends I may not want to have with my girlfriends. They don't do that all the time. But I could talk to you about certain things. We talked about social media management before we hopped on, and we both were like, "Oh, this is nice. This is new," because we have to manage those things. They're a commonplace for us. So, I definitely want to encourage business owners and entrepreneurs who are out there now, especially during these tough times. It's so important to have therapy to some kind of extent, like you said. And definitely for all of us as women, as friends to each other, as sisters, to all of that. I'm loving the comments that I'm seeing going on. Thank you so much to everyone that's tuning in. Thank you, Miss Angela, for all of your comments too. I love them. We used to work together way, way, way back in the day. But
Oh,
then you make those connections and
there
you
you
just
go. That's it.
you stay.
That's
So I want to
beautiful.
ask one more question
Sure.
before I let you go, Dr. Taylor. And it's really about the news. How
Mm,
can we just be sane? We hear
mhm,
so much stuff on the news now. You
mm,
see so much stuff on social media. Everybody,
mhm.
I ain't never seen so many public health people and epidemiologists and self-proclaimed all kind of stuff as I have right now. Politicians popping out of everywhere. I love my people, but sometimes it's just too much. And then you got to turn on the news. I just wanted to see the weather. Now I got to deal with all this that happened in Congress. And then again, just being
Right.
reminded of the racial injustice that happens all
Absolutely.
across the country. And having to deal with that. How
Right.
how do we stay with all of these stressors just coming one place from another?
Right, right. That's a fantastic question because I have had to kind of navigate that and help other people navigate that process as well. Because there is a part that makes sense. Like, I need to be knowledgeable about what's going on, particularly when sometimes it seems like things are changing by the hour, in terms of policy. And like, I think about yesterday, the day started out fine. And then midway, our governor said that they changing the phases. We're rolling back, being more restrictive in Hampton Roads. And so, like, and I get notifications on my phone from the new. It's a lot, right? So I feel the need to be informed so that I can know what's going on, and particularly if other people I'm around are being impacted, how I can support them. But you're right, there does need to be some balance to it. And so, one of the things that has been really helpful, particularly like if we think about where we're getting a lot of our news from, and for a lot of us, that is like our social media platforms. There might be a day when you need to evaluate your accounts. And so, in a lot of ways, so even beyond the news, even beyond racial injustice, think about some of the people that we're following, and that we're connected to, because there could be accounts that are well-meaning accounts and beautiful accounts, but they kind of invoke a sense of comparison. And so, what I mean by that is, I'm not doing enough, I'm failing. See, I should have learned that second language, like I said I was going to do back in March. Or I should be at that march downtown. Or why am I not being a strong advocate in the way that I should be? Or I should be calling my governor. Just anything that's kind of evoking issues of like guilt and shame, like really evaluate them, because we do have these beautiful buttons on these platforms that allow us to mute, to block, to unfollow. And so you might not be in a space where you can sort of process all those things that feel like I need to be acting in some way as soon as I press this social media platform button. So I would evaluate your accounts. And one of the things that's really helpful to me is I have, particularly on Instagram, I have like a professional account, but then I have the JaNaè account. And it had been a while since I've been on the JaNaè account. But when I took that week off, I tried as much as possible to not be on a professional account, but went to my personal account. And it's so nice over there. There were like flowers and pets and babies and beautiful homes and people breathing and meditating. I was like, why don't I come over here? What is good? So I was able, and I hadn't even realized, I was able to kind of protect that account. And it feels truly like a breath of fresh air. And I still did not feel like I was not connected to what was happening in the world today. But we really do have to be really purposeful and mindful of how we kind of soak in information. And this could even be for people that we talk to, because there could be people who are just natural warriors, are natural concerned people, and they want to talk to you about all the problems or all the things that they've seen and heard. And so you might have to tell them, I hear you, and I can tell that you're worried about that, but can we talk about something else? Or I just don't have the capacity, or I'm worried about that too. That's why we need to change the subject. But sometimes it has to be with another person that we redirect, so that we can stay connected to them, but not feel like we have to avoid them or decline their call when it shows up on our screen. But really, really, and you're going to have to be almost like your own bodyguard as it relates to social media, as it relates to relationships, when you're out in the world, about how the information that you're getting and the things that people are telling you about what needs to happen. Some of that's true and some of it's not. And so just be on guard in that way.
I've done a lot of that too. just to set boundaries on my social media time and my news time, where I have to be purposeful now. It's not when you just wake up in the morning, okay, go scroll, wake up in the morning, watch news, go scroll on social media. I have to change my routine where I wake up now, have some prayer, some meditation, kind of get myself together. And then I may watch news. I need to know how the traffic is. I need to know how the weather's going to be. If we still in phase 2 or phase 3, if I can go get takeout or not. I need to know those things too. And then, for me, as a healthcare professional, I like to see what the CDC is doing or what the vaccine trials are doing. But then after a certain point, I got to log off. I got to cut it off. I go put something else on, or I go talk to someone else about something. So it's setting those boundaries that really help for me, just like you said too, having those 2 different accounts. And then I've had to learn to kind of separate people from their views and say it's okay to feel this way about certain things. I have negotiables, things that it's okay, and then I have, non-negotiables. But especially when it comes to things with COVID, for example, you see all kind of stuff. I have my view, and if you think something different, that's your view, and that doesn't mean that I need to get angered or to go off or do other things. That's just your view. And then also just trying to look at what I can do about some of these situations. So I know for me, my part in this is to give out solid information from solid sources, wear my mask, carry on about my business. When it comes even down to racial inequalities, different things like we're learning about the maternal child health issues that face Black women with, dying and all these things that I've known for years. And it's like I get riled up again, but I had to, again, take it down to a level that I know, say, what can I do? What is my part that's tangible, that's manageable, that I could take some kind of action over, like not a big project, like you said. Is it just putting out factual information? Is it just making sure I take the best care of my patients like I do at Coceaux Health?
Absolutely.
Is it just doing things? And then that's my part. And then I kind of leave everything else to everyone else. I sit on a couple of committees that have to do with racial inequities, and I say my piece, I do my part, I work real hard, and then that's my piece, and then I go and I do something that kind of refuels myself. So I go spend time with my husband. I go, girl, I love my lawn patio furniture now more than ever. I sit outside. When the neighbors see me sitting outside, they all know I'm on break. So, finding those small, just breaking it down to small things. I think that's manageable to do, and not being so overwhelmed by everything that we see. For sure.
Right. Don't try to do any of this by yourself. Don't try to do it by yourself.
Right. Well, Dr. JaNaè, I am so grateful that you logged on today, that you were with us and took the time to answer all these questions. Thank you to everyone that is live with us, that submitted your questions. Please tell people how they can stay connected with you on your business page, how they can get with your counseling and consulting services, and how they can also listen to your podcast.
Absolutely. And thank you for that. So yes, on Facebook and on Instagram, you can find my accounts under Dr. JaNaè Taylor. And then on Twitter, you can find me under Minding My Black Biz. So if all of that is too much, you can check out the website, mindingmyblackbusiness.com, and you'll find all those things. You'll find a link to the therapy practice. You'll find the podcast, and you'll find some resources for Black entrepreneurs. So yes, I would love if you would stay connected. There's a way to sign up and get on our mailing list where I give out digital resources and podcast replays and all sorts of fun activities that we have coming up. And so I would love to hear from folks so that I can support them as best as I can.
I so support everything that you do, especially for the African-American community. Make sure that you stay connected to Coceaux Health. Of course, on our Facebook page, on Instagram, we're at Coceaux Health. Our website is coceauxhealth.com, and you can definitely subscribe to our newsletter. We send those out, and we also have appointments that you can be in our virtual clinic, so you can stay safe from COVID. You can be in the comforts of your own house, and we'll definitely take care of your women's health needs. Thank you so much to everyone. Stay connected to what both of these companies are doing. I'm so excited about kind of where we're going and how we're helping out Black women, especially in Black communities. So that way we kind of even the playing field. So that way we are the healthiest selves that we can be mentally and physically. So everyone, please enjoy your night and take care.
Absolutely.